Hey there, welcome to ChetChat. We promised to get back to you with jobs and exciting opportunities. And we have with us today somebody from the insurance industry. Because the way it is insurance is the second biggest employer today after the Indian Railways. So what better? We've got with us Vighnesh Shahane, who's the CEO of IDBI Federal Life Insurance. So hi Vighnesh, welcome to the show.
Hi Chetna and welcome to IDBI Federal.
Oh yes, and thank you so much for agreeing to be with us because this is such a huge industry.
Pleasure.
And there are so many notions out there because it predates, for years and years. So tell us about what you see as the future of this industry now.
The private insurance industry in India is about 16 years old and it could be broken down into three distinct phases. The first phase was 7 or 8 years of heady growth, and there was a gold rush, and then the global meltdown happened, and the next 6 or 7 years was a period of a little bit of degrowth.
Right.
The last couple of years, I think we are consolidating. The sentiment is very positive. I think the medium to long term outlook for life insurance in India is very positive.
Right. Okay, so that's exciting. We've got a positive growth. We've got an under-insured population. Right. So what should the youth look out for in this going forward? Should they be here, and what is in it for them?
My message to the youth would be definitely it's an industry you should try to be in. If you're interested in an industry which is exciting, interesting, challenging, thrill a minute, and keeps turning on its head every 3 months, that's the right place to be in. I've been a banker longer than I've been an insurance guy. I've sold most financial products, and insurance is one financial product which makes a difference to people's lives.
Right, of course.
I believe you need to be chosen by God to sell insurance. So
wow.
If that motivates you, you should be here.
You've come to the right place if you're motivated by God. But let's understand now, within this sector, there's this notion that it's only about sales. So let's first talk about sales, and there's of course a huge non-sales portion. So let's look at how do they actually work around different avenues to sell insurance.
Yeah, so like any other industry, any other company, sales is what puts a lunch on the table.
Yes.
And it's no different for insurance. But more than sales, there's more to insurance than sales. There are as many departments as a bank would have. There is marketing, there is audit, there's finance, there's compliance, risk, and we have about 15 departments besides sales. And even within sales, we have a lot of channels.
Right. So let's say there is a young graduate looking to a career in insurance, perhaps in sales. What are the different avenues available to him?
So, we have young graduates coming to us, either fresh out of college or with 1 or 2 years of work experience. We're not too fast about that. I think everybody should start their career in sales. If you don't have this perspective on sales, you view the world through an Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
And that's what you are left doing. So young graduate showing a lot of passion, enthusiasm, attitude, energy can start a career in sales. And like I said, within sales we have many channels. We have an agency channel where he's the boss.
Okay.
He's not an employee of the company. He works at his pace, at his convenience, and he earns the commission.
Right.
We also have sales positions for employees in different channels. So depending on his aptitude, attitude, and his interests, he can forge a career in sales. He can keep upgrading his skills doing other courses, and there are a lot of short-term and medium-term courses in insurance available now. I believe success is a culture. I don't believe you can be a successful sales guy, and if you put your head to it, you can't be a successful product or marketing or HR guy.
So Vighnesh, you drew out this map for us where you said if they're interested in sales, they can go the agency route, or they can be an employee for the company and be in sales. So let's talk about agency, since that's like a really large chunk of people. So if they want to become a life insurance agent, what is the process for that and timelines, etc.?
Yeah, so if you want to become a life insurance agent, you have the choice of 24 insurance companies in front of you, including the LIC. The minimum qualifications for life insurance agents are 12 standard.
Okay.
There's a 100 course, after which there's a online examination.
Right.
So you do the 100 hours, you do the online examination, and you're a licensed agent with that company.
Right.
When you choose to do an examination through a company, you are tied to that company. You can't be an agent for multiple companies.
Okay.
Although you're an entrepreneur, it's a variable job.
Right.
You have to be tied to that company.
Okay. If you do the examination through that company.
Through that company.
Okay.
So you do the 100 hours for the company sponsors your online exam,
Okay.
and then you're tied to that company.
Okay.
Agency, you're the boss. So
Right.
there's no ceiling to how much you can earn. And even today, in my company, there are the top 3 or 4 agents earn more money than I do.
Wow.
And that's a great thing.
Yeah.
And I get excited seeing that. So it's all a function of how hard you work,
Right.
how many people you meet. So the insurance in India, Chetna, is not bought.
Right.
It's sold.
Yes.
So
yes.
you have to be eyeball to eyeball with as many people in a day as you can. And then you earn commissions.
Okay.
You earn renewal commissions.
Right.
So I sell you a policy, I earn front end first up commission.
Right.
If you renew your policy next year with no effort from me, I'm just probably a phone call to remind you, and the year after that, I earn a renewal commissions. If you're willing to bend your back, work hard, work diligently, the sky is the limit. You could write your own paycheck every month.
Wow. But there seems to be some sort of misconception, should I say, or some apprehensions that people feel about this career, being a life insurance agent.
Like I said, there are apprehensions about most sales jobs. Most people, especially I've seen this amongst postgraduate students, whether they're CAs or MBAs, and less graduates, that they feel that a cabin's going to be waiting for them. But there are people who love doing agency because they're your own boss. You write your own paycheck. You work timings which are convenient to you, and there's a lot of flexibility in the job, and there's no ceiling of the money you can earn.
Okay.
So there is this negative perception about sales, but that's true for sales, not about agency alone.
Right.
Probably more so for insurance, because insurance is more of a push product. So they feel that it's the best way to lose friends. We all need insurance.
Yes.
So, but it's probably the perception that it needs to be stuffed down people's throat, and you need to con people. It's not so.
Right.
There's a saying in insurance, there is no wife who thinks her husband needs insurance, and there's no widow who thinks her husband has enough insurance. So that just tells you, that insurance, it's probably got the value of sand when you sell it to a person and you feel that he's doing you a favor, but actually you're doing him a favor by selling him insurance. And when the event does happen, normally you would wish that he had more insurance. And there's so many cases we have in our company where we settle claims of people between the age of 35 and 40.
Wow, my God.
And they have young families, single earners, and that's when you realize the impact insurance makes on people's lives.
Now looking at an employee within the company, a sales function, a fresh graduate. So in that case, you said in an agency, he or she could be 12th pass.
That's minimum.
That's the minimum.
Qualification, yeah.
But for being an employee in the sales function in your company, what would be the minimum qualifications?
At least a graduation.
Okay.
Sometimes I interview, in my earlier role, I used to interview these people. I used to know the guy is right, but the way he shook my hands.
Wow.
What should come across is a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and enthusiasm for sales. Because there's nothing else yet now to look for a graduate, except which college he's and how much he's scored in his final year, which really doesn't count.
It's not an indicator, right? Tell me, once they join you, what is the future career path they can expect?
Okay, so there are a lot of stories of people here who've started at a sales level, graduate, postgraduate, or probably graduate with 2 or 3 years of work experience, and they've gone on to mid-management or senior management levels in different functions like product, marketing, strategy, digital, HR. These are functions they could branch out into. Some of them have worked in all 5 functions over the period of the last 15 years. And having begun their career in sales and not equipped or not armed with any fancy degree from any fancy college, but just the passion to learn and the passion to contribute to the company.
So Vighnesh, we figured being in sales with you required a minimum qualification of a graduate and a whole lot of passion.
Right.
Now let's look at people who probably don't want to be in sales but want to be associated with this growing industry of insurance. So what are the kinds of roles available to them, and what could be the qualifications that they need for those?
Yeah, so for the non-sales roles, we're a little more stringent in terms of qualification or work ex. We won't take a fresh graduate into a non-sales role like compliance or risk or finance or investments or in HR.
Right.
But we look for CAs, we look for CFAs, we look for ICWAs. We could look at some MBAs also. But having said that, like I said, a lot of people have graduated, shown a whole load of truckloads of attitude and passion and,
Right. Okay.
and done well.
So
And they've not been armed with CAs and MBAs.
Okay. So there is the way you can grow without all of that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But let's look at, say, an actuary. Do you need an actuary, and what kind
So
of?
actuarial is a little different. Actually, you need a flair for mathematics and statistics.
Right.
These are the guys who price products and make assumptions on mortality and death. So to be an actuary, you need to do 15 exams.
Right.
The quickest one who's done these 15 exams was, I think, 7 or 8 years.
Oh,
But
boy.
the good news is you could start start appearing for these exams in college.
Okay.
After you pass 15 exams, you become an appointed actuary,
Right.
and that's stardom.
That's interesting.
That's
So
for
7 or 8 years, or a little bit more than that, but you can start right after your 12th standard.
You could.
And a huge flair for maths and statistics.
And there's a lot of demand for actuaries.
Yes.
Not only with us, also with health insurance companies, non-life companies, in overseas.
Okay.
And the actuary is the highest paid employee of the insurance company.
Sure.
They appoint
And why not?
Yeah.
Now let's look at the CAs and CFAs who are joining you. What are the kinds of roles they can expect?
We look for roles in finance, risk, which is extremely critical department of an insurance company, audit. These are 3 functions we would definitely look at a CA or a CFA.
Okay.
Probably in investments.
Okay.
Because CAs, to my mind, come with a lot of an ability to go in depth.
So Vighnesh, tell us, you've been here for a while in this industry. Tell us about that one moment where you actually felt thankful that you were here.
To help these guys get a perspective of what happens to the sales guy and how difficult life is in the field, I told them to sell a policy to their best friend or their relative or their parent and come back.
Okay.
And not even 15% of them could do it even to their best friend. And their best friend was buying policies from somebody else. So I said, that's exactly how tough it is. So you have to eat what you cook.
Right.
So you buy a policy from us.
Okay.
You buy a policy from us.
Yeah, so you understand.
And
what
we had this online economical term product, which was no fuss. And 2 months after this, there was this employee, a colleague of mine, 32 years of age, just married for 2 years, non-smoker, non-drinker, slim, vegetarian,
Oh my God.
who had a sudden heart attack and expired.
Oof.
And he had bought this policy for 60 lakhs because I had told everybody, if you can't sell, you need to buy a policy of 60 lakhs.
Oh.
His wife didn't know it. We knew he'd taken this policy because he bought it through us. So I got the claim check out and went and presented it to his wife, and she had tears in her eyes.
Sure, it's such a big thing.
You know, if I had spoken to her 2 months back, Chetna, and said that, Rahul, you should buy a policy for Rahul because, God forbid something happens to him, should have felt offended.
No, he's
That
32.
How can you say this to a 32-year-old fit guy who doesn't smoke, doesn't drink? But the day I gave her the check, I'm sure the first thought was obviously a lot of gratitude and a lot of happiness. But somewhere she would have thought that I wish Rahul had taken a
Larger.
policy twice as big.
Yeah.
So that's the power of insurance, and this happens all the time. Because it's a myth that
Amazing.
the expectancy in India is 65 or 70 or whatever number you want to throw. But there are a lot of people between 35 and 45 because of the stressful lives people lead in metros who are dying of heart attacks, and you have young families, they're sole breadwinners, they have loans to pay, and that's where insurance steps in.
No, absolutely. I think this puts the whole thing in perspective that we are not only working for a good paycheck, like you said, we can write on our own, but we are genuinely
And that's why I said
changing
that,
lives.
Yeah, you need to be selected by God to sell insurance because you're impacting lives.
You are.
So you will be true and honest to your profession, work hard, and God will reward you.
So tell us, before we wrap the show, just to put some numbers in perspective. So a few numbers that I read was that there are roughly about 2 million agents today selling life insurance.
There were 3 million about 5 years back.
Oh,
so there's been
okay.
this attrition of agents.
Oh, okay.
But it's going to pick up again.
Yeah. And roughly, say, 2 to 3 lakh employees.
Yeah.
So what are the kind of numbers that you have within your
So we have about 8 to 10,000 agents who are, although they're tied with us. I spoke to you about having different sales channels.
Yes.
So we have about 1,000, 1,200 people or 1,100 people in the other sales channels, which are online, group, broking, bank assurance, which is about 75% of that for 2 banks, and or 800 people in all the other departments we spoke about.
Okay, so those are large numbers, and if the industry
And
is growing, yes. So for all of you out there, you've got job opportunities. We've laid out the path for you. So wish you luck with your future, and thank you, Vighnesh, so much for sharing this with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please click the subscribe button below. Like me at facebook.com/ChetChat101. Follow my Twitter handle, ChetChat101, or at Instagram, ChetChat101. Please leave your comments in the sections below. Thank you.